Welcome to the Pizza Buffet live here on Forward Progress, part of the Hammer Betting Network, proudly presented by Fanduel. I am Rob Pizzola. We've made it, people. Finally, it's Super Bowl Sunday. It's the biggest game of the year, the game that I've been waiting for, not just because it's the biggest game, but because it'll signal the end of a very long grind of a season, but very rewarding as well. Right now, market is huge on this game, on side and total. Every edge has been debated all week, dissected all week. That doesn't mean, though, that there still aren't angles to explore, props to dive into. Of course, the ultimate question, who is lifting the Lombardi Trophy tonight? I'll talk through all of that. Now, today's show is going to be mainly about you, the audience. I'm going to give my overall thoughts on the game, but I'll be treating this like a Q&A as much as possible. Fire away in the chat, your leans, your last-minute bets, your thoughts on the game. Anything that you'd like to ask me about the Super Bowl is fair game today. This show is at its best when we're all interacting, so let's make it a great one. And before we dive in, of course, I do want to take a moment to talk about something that's incredibly important to me, which is responsible gaming. Today is one of those, it's one of the most fun days of the year, but it's very easy to get caught up in the hype. For most people, sports betting is not a means to an end. It's not an income for them. It should be entertainment. It should enhance your enjoyment of the game. It shouldn't create stress or financial strain, reckless decisions. So set limits for yourself today. Stick to bankroll management. Don't chase losses. If things aren't going your way in the first quarter or the first half, no need to double up in the second half or anything like that. If you feel like you're constantly losing control, there's resources available to help. So bet smart, bet responsibly. Remember, it's just one game. With that said, let's break it all down. Super Bowl Sunday. Good morning to everyone out there. I saw a lot of spirited debate back and forth early on between some Eagles fans maybe, or Eagles bettors, Chiefs bettors. Makes a lot of sense. There's going to be conflicting opinions on this game. I don't want to say anyone who thinks that they have who has a strong conviction on it is an idiot. That's not what I mean to say at all. Because you can't have a strong conviction on it. But remember, we're looking across the board right now. Eagles 1 point favorite. Chiefs 1 point favorite. Money lines ranging from lowest I see is minus 110 all the way up to minus 122 on the Chiefs. Total 48.5. These are what I would call infinite liquidity options available to you today. There's sports books taking $300K a click right now, and then letting you re-click. Tough to beat that. Not saying that you shouldn't bet it or don't have an edge, and I'll break down my thoughts on it as well, but just be aware of that. John Smith, thank you very much for the $20. What are your thoughts on Kelsey unders? I'll get to those in a second. I also think that there's some SGP looks on Kelsey as well, possibly. With the Chiefs offense, because of the lack of big play ability for certain players, I think that there's some ways you can play some SGP angles today. But first and foremost, for the game. So Jeff Feinberg, good friend of mine, who you've seen on Circle Back before, he always roasts me every year. He's like, oh, Rob's going to be that guy that tells people that, don't bet anything and this and that. I will say, from a personal perspective, my portfolio for this year's Super Bowl is smaller than past years. Just even from a props perspective, I don't think that there was as much to love about this particular game. But I'm going in with roughly, I have 34 bets right now. As of now, probably will end up with something like 50. There's going to be service play releases today as well. Saw Hitman just release something, which I'll talk about shortly, something that I like and bet. So there's all that. But I will give my opinion, and I will bet a side in the game. And the side that I'm going to bet is going to be the Chiefs. Now, not going to lie to you, I woke up this morning, scrolling through the Twitter. I saw Book It Trent on the Chiefs. I'm like, ooh, it's tough. But complete narrative based. Think the number's fine. I just want the team that frequently finds a way to pull out close games in what is expected to be a close game. It's as simple as that. There are very good handicaps for Philadelphia. I've heard them. A lot of them make logical sense. Like when you start with the Kansas City offense here, right? Kansas City, they don't have explosive plays in the arsenal right now, unless they just happen by fluke. Yards after catch. They're not airing it out downfield. When they do, it hasn't been successful. They're going to dink and dunk you to death. And that is not exactly, in my opinion, the best way to attack the Eagles. They're a good tackling team. They close on screens really well. It's a stout defense overall. The Chiefs will have to have some wrinkles in the offense today. I would guess that they actually do take a few deep shots here and there to keep the Eagles defense a little honest and force them to play a little bit further downfield. But we've seen this Chiefs offense going on, I want to say like 12 weeks now, less than that, maybe 10 weeks of high success, limited turnovers. I mean, 2 weeks ago against Buffalo was the Chiefs' first turnover in 9 games. This is the style that they're playing. It is a very good Eagles defense. There's no debating that. I think the Mahomes versus Fangio stuff is kind of blown out of proportion as well. When you consider Fangio was with Denver in the division, never really had the horses. Same with Miami. Like, that's fine. The most telling would be, honestly, when the Eagles brought Fangio on as a consultant a couple years ago for the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs were able to scheme some incredible stuff in that game, especially in the red zone, where they really utilized motion to throw off the Eagles' DBs. So there's definitely reason to be optimistic about the Eagles' defense because they've been good for a long time. And I think that the Chiefs' offense, I don't want to call them one-dimensional in that they can only pass or run, but they seem to have a very specific style to game plan against. Other side, there's a lot of like different opinions on the Chiefs' run defense. Statistically speaking, started the year really hot. They fell off. I think the Chiefs are just an average run defense. I think that they will probably want to invite the run. As I know that sounds counterintuitive because when you think of the Eagles, most people think, well, if Saquon goes off in this game, it's over. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't. I think Saquon can have a huge game and the Eagles could still lose. I think ultimately the X factor for the Eagles ends up being Jalen Hurts. And he did play very well in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. He's capable of the game. I've never been a guy that's like, oh, Jalen Hurts is trash or whatever. I just think that what people think of him is often in a higher echelon than he actually is. But ultimately, I do think that this comes down to how he plays in this game. Because what the Chiefs will do well and what Spagnuolo does really well is get you at the right time. And it sounds, again, narrative-y or whatever, but the Chiefs will give up plays. They will give up rushes. They'll let James Cook, a few weeks ago go for 30 yards. They'll give up some carries to Barkley. They'll give up some plays over the middle of the field. It has happened all year. But there will come a high leverage spot where Spags will pull out some sort of blitz package that nobody's seen in a while and get home, and constantly does this. And this is the problem with Jalen Hurts for me in this particular game, is he has a tendency to take sacks in these types of situations. So that to me is a massive X factor when I'm breaking down the game altogether. Absolutely, there are so many ways that the Eagles can win this game. There are, in fact, ways that the Eagles can win this game in a rout. I think people look at the line, the spread, they recent Super Bowls, and the assumption is that it's going to be a close game. Well, that's not true. I mean, there's lots of scenarios where Philly can dominate this game, right? There's 2 weeks of game planning that go into it. There's a lot here that none of us know about. There's the game within the game amongst the coaches, different schemes, different game planning. There's stuff like who's the NFL Films guy? Howard Cosell. Saw an interview with him this week, which I thought was great because it's actual film analysis, like real film analysis, where he was talking about how the Eagles, they're basically playing a nickel defense. They don't play base because they don't want to take Cooper DeJean off the field because he's been so good this year. Are there scenarios where the Chiefs just go extremely heavy for today's game and force the Eagles to make some sort of decision? I don't know. All this stuff plays a factor. I did make a number on the game. The number was KC minus 1.1, total in the game, 48.6. Talked about this 2 weeks ago on Forward Progress as a very early reaction. Where will the line go today? Further, I would only suspect Philly money, and this is just based off. Oh, Greg Cosell, thank you. My bad, guys. Still morning for me. Yeah. Based off of market power ratings for the latter half of the year, I think for the most part the Eagles would have been a pick 'em or favored in this game, but I do believe that there's a playoff factor for the Chiefs that needs to be accounted for. That's where I'm at right now. So I will bet the Chiefs today. It's going to be an entertaining bet. Watching the game with friends, playing a big poker cash game tonight. That's kind of been the Super Bowl thing for the last few years for me. Going to have some fun with it. Everyone's going to have some sort of bets on the game, as will I. I don't think that that's a big edge. I'm just giving my personal opinion on what I would do. No, that's maybe not helping you. And by now, you've probably made up your mind already. But that's where I'm at. From a props perspective, so Dallas Goedert just got hit towards the under on receptions, which I agree with. Kareem Hunt just got hit towards the under on rush yards as well. Now, there will be more movement in the prop markets today. Really quickly, before we do get into the prop markets and I take all your questions, I do want to tell you about one thing on FanDuel today. Super Bowl 59, it's your chance to hit the jackpot on FanDuel today, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel's $5 million touchdown jackpot is happening today. You can win a share of $5 million in bonus bets. All you have to do is place an anytime touchdown score bet before the game kicks off. If your player scores the first or the last TD, you'll win your bet, plus you win a share of bonus bets. Predict the first touchdown score and why, last touchdown score and why. You can win a share of bonus bets. Visit fanduel.com/forwardprogress. Get in on the action. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, over 18 plus and present in DC. Opt-in required. Each $2.5 million prize pool to be split equally amongst all eligible participants who made the correct picks. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 21 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. Terms are at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit fanduel.com/RG. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. MD Gambling Helpline .org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support of Massachusetts. 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Make sure you check that out. And by the way, if you are betting touchdown scores today, you should do that at FanDuel anyways for the most part. I'm using my BetStamp Pro odds screen right now. I'm looking across the board. FanDuel's got the best price on touchdowns on like 80% of the players today. 80% of the players. All right. most notable prop angles for me this week, or things I've seen from a player perspective. So the biggest, let's say, split or back and forth that I've seen has to do with how the tertiary receiver situation is going to play out for the Chiefs in this game, which is Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre Hopkins. Early in the week, Hopkins steamed under, Juju Smith-Schuster steamed over. Now, as the week has progressed, I'm starting to see that sentiment flipping. Not so much reflected in the market as much, but more often than not, I'm seeing that flip. I'll give my opinion on that. I don't see Hopkins being hugely involved in this game, except for in the red zone, personally. Now, his reception yardage market is so low at this point, at 11.5, that maybe it just takes one red zone catch or something like that for him to go over the total, because he's been bet down that much. Sorry, 12.5 now up to Fanduel. So a little bit of buyback as well. I don't know how that's going to play out. If we just look at snap counts in the playoffs, there's no doubt Juju Smith-Schuster has become the third option there. He's getting 3 times the amount of snaps as DeAndre Hopkins. I think he is more versatile between the 20s, but I do like Hopkins in the red zone more. And if there's going to be some one-on-ones on the outside, they could consider taking some shots with Hopkins in the red zone as well. But I have seen that sentiment sort of flip. Next one, Dallas Goedert on the Eagles side. Tons of people talking about Dallas Goedert and the matchup advantage for Dallas Goedert, which is there because the Chiefs have struggled to defend the middle of the field. They've struggled against tight ends all year long. The problem is that it's, in my opinion, this was already priced in to Dallas Goedert. So I think people kind of got carried away with, Goedert 48.5, and that's a low number at FanDuel, by the way. If you wanted over on Goedert, bet it at FanDuel, because there's still 53.5s out there, 54.5 actually as well. I feel like that's been priced in this whole time. So Goedert is kind of a guy that I like. I don't want to say necessarily to fade, but I'll be rooting for some unders. Let's just put it that way as well. MP says, I like Saquon's over receiving yards here. Chernoff made this his favorite prop bet on our prop betting extravaganza. And I get the rationale for that, especially with Kansas City's tendency to blitz in high leverage situations. I wouldn't be surprised if Saquon had a big touchdown through the air today in the passing game, where the Eagles are really trying to figure out a situation where Spags might send heavy pressure and get it out to Saquon in space. I don't like Saquon in the rushing yards market. Well, I do think he'll get volume, but these are some pretty big numbers. Receiving yards, a little bit different. And that is definitely a look that I've seen from many people this week that I would respect, that like the over. Johnny C says P. Ryan over 7.5 receiving. So Austin Mock, good friend of mine. I do a lot of football work with him. He made a case for P. Ryan. So P. Ryan is when he's on the field, he's a threat to catch a ball out of the backfield every single time. Like, they want to get P. Ryan in space. They want to utilize his hands. There's going to be opportunity. To me, it's just the snap counts that are the concern. It is a small number. I would lean over for sure. I don't have anything going related to P. Ryan today. Chris asked me 50 bets. How many units per bet? Honestly, I don't think of the Super Bowl prop betting that way. It's from a unit perspective, especially as you're betting these over the course of the week. There's only a finite amount of liquidity. So I just bet whatever I can, basically, on them. XS says, Spags will force Hurts to pass, as he did with Lamar, except Hurts is not a choker. Fair. I don't know that I agree, necessarily. I don't know that I do. Now, I didn't point this out in the game breakdown, but obviously the KC secondary is a lot different now, right? Like having a real number 2 corner is going to make a big difference for Kansas City. Like having McDuffie and Jalen Watson is a big difference from having, Najee Johnson on the outside, who is just getting picked on every single game. That matters for sure. I don't know what Philly's going to do. My guess would be that they are more pass heavy than people realize. Right? Like you look at the Eagles season long numbers, KC we know is like huge pass rate over expected. That's what they do. The Eagles are well below average, but they are always leading and they're always running out the clock with that type of stuff. Ryan Loosemore says, Hopkins under 12.5 plus anytime touchdown. Jason, let's price this. I just want to see out of curiosity what that is, what that looks like, because I don't hate that. Again, I like the logic behind it, right? If the theory is Hopkins is going to be a red zone target, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good bet. I think that's a good bet, Ryan. I don't know what other shops are offering it at, but because it has the anytime touchdown in here on Hopkins, which is 5-1, FanDuel, let me just see what he is elsewhere. I mean, the best I see is 550. I think that's probably a good one there as well. We did get the donation earlier, and I was asked about Kelsey unders. I don't have much going for Kelsey in this game, but KC is a team that has specific players that I like to play the inverse correlation on, right? So Kelsey is one. I can't remember which primetime game it was earlier in the year. It was probably about midway through the season. Maybe I think it was a Monday night football game against the Bucks, Chiefs Bucks. My memory's bad, so I could be wrong on that. But we did something where we played Kelsey alt receptions over, but receiving yards under, and it didn't cash. It was very, very live late in the game. I like that as a look for Kansas City as well. He does have the better matchup in the sense that he doesn't have to face any of these Eagles corners. So I could see him getting a lot of quick targets in this game, but not necessarily racking up the receiving yardage. Ecolt asks me, what's KC under 3.5 punts minus 125? So I don't price this out myself. So I'm going to guess the logic here is centered around KC playing slow, Philly being a run-heavy team. It condenses the game more. There's less possessions. There might be value in the under 3.5 punts. I'm just going to be honest. I don't like to BS my way through stuff. I don't really ever price punt markets. That's a tough one for me. That's a tough one. Joe D says, as always, thanks, Rob. Thoughts on Pacheco, alternate overs, rush, and or receiving yards? Maybe better live look for a hot hand, but with more rest, he's approaching 100%. Okay. I think there is a sharp consensus around Pacheco being more live in this game than he has been previously. And I'll believe that when I see it. I understand the logic. He has had more time to rest for this game. He has gotten early carries. It's one of the reasons why, if you have been following the first quarter markets for this game, Pacheco's overs have been bet and Hunt's unders have been bet. KC will ride the hot running back. They do that. I think there's potential for Pacheco. I'm not going to be betting a ton of this game live. Like I said, I'll be playing like a poker cash game at the time. So I'm kind of like night off from the live betting stuff. But if you are someone who is going to be in and around, or you have access to your mobile, I mean, I guess I could live bet this stuff in real time. I'd be very interested to see how KC starts this game off with the running backs. Let's just put it that way. I think there will be a viable running back angle for the Chiefs at some point. And if Pacheco doesn't get carries early, I would almost dismiss him in this game. Okay, is Hurts healthy? So the resounding answer is no. From what I have heard, this could be wrong, but from what I understand, Hurts has a grade 2 MCL injury and a potential partially torn meniscus. That's what I have been told. Again, take that. So Hurts under, I have some Hurts rushing unders in this game. I think people think that that's like a narrative. I don't believe that. I believe that he is hurt. That doesn't mean he can't run in this game. Doesn't mean that he won't. It's the Super Bowl if he has to. I just feel like the way that he's been priced or was priced, that there would have been value if you're pricing that in. He's going to have some sort of offseason surgery. I think that's been like a poorly kept secret so far. Mike Montoro says no defensive scoring. So that's the most expensive prop I've played today. I'll share it because you know what? If it happens, it'll be a good story. It'll be funny anyways. You recall 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, I told you how much I loved no field goal to hit an upright in that Super Bowl. I still maintain, you know, I joked about Ian McMillan on Circle Back last week. And like, you lose the bet, you gotta give it up. I can't give that one. It was a great bet. We lost. It was a great bet. I can't believe that happened. What are you going to do? The biggest juice I took on a Super Bowl prop this year was that there would not be a defensive or special teams touchdown in the game. I don't remember the exact price I laid, and I don't want to go digging right now, but it was, I want to say, just over 1 to 3, like in the minus 300 to minus 325 range, something like that. Okay, so I didn't know this. I didn't watch the stream. Move that last night. What are you playing no D special teams touchdown up to? I do have a probability that I made that odd. So let me just pull my sheet up here really quickly. And I priced a no defensive or special teams touchdown at 80.8%. So that would be the equivalent of minus 421. That's where I'm at. As a fair, you can use that to whatever you may. Hitman just tweeted Hurts under rushing. I share a lot of information with Hitman. He's a great guy. I think we were in simpatico there. Okay, what else do we got here? Tour capture. Should I hedge my 56-1 Chiefs betting? Okay, on the topic of hedging, I honestly, my least favorite questions to answer are related to hedging. Okay. There are people who argue ad nauseum on this. I'm not going to admit to be the expert in hedging here. I don't like to hedge stuff myself, personally. Okay. I'd rather just take the play that was in a great position and ride it out and do that over a very long period of time. I'm very confident you're much better off doing that. However, each person's different. Their risk threshold is different. If I had something that I have a midseason I have futures on both of these teams. Forget about me for a second here. Don't want to do this thing where I'm like patting myself on the back and victory lapping stuff that wasn't given out on air. So I'm not going to do that. With the hedging stuff, if you're going to be really upset if you lose, it's going to cause you to lose sleep, whatever, just friggin' hedge it. There you go. If you want to, you've answered your own question. If you want to secure no losses, do that. But you in your heart know what to do. Most people in these types of situations, they know. You need the Eagles to win the Super Bowl, and you're not going to be able to deal with it, and you're going to be really upset if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Throw some money down on the Chiefs. Give yourself a win-win, but a bigger win on the Eagles. These are the things that I would typically do. Okay? I'll keep answering questions here. I got nowhere to be for a while. So, one other market at Fanduel, and I do like to show love to our show sponsors. I do think that if you're going to bet something in the game, am I lagging now? Okay, I'm good. There's specific prop markets where I would say gravitate towards a certain market. I know all my friends are going to do this tonight. This is the reason I'm bringing it up. They're going to pick like a couple guys on a team, and they're going to bet them to get a defensive interception. Happens every year. People go nuts. If you're going to bet the defensive interceptions markets, Quinyon Mitchell, Trent McDuffie, Zach Bond, like Justin Reed, these guys, the prices at other sportsbooks are a joke relative to FanDuel. Just bet the FanDuel one. Anyone for MVP? I have no MVP bets. The only other person I would consider for MVP, I don't even think it's a great price. I think I can make a case for Xavier Worthy. That I think that at like a 30-1 price range, I think I can make that case. Because he's the guy that could have the game where Mahomes doesn't win it, in my opinion. Like we already saw, I can't remember who the running back, I have a horrible memory. First Super Bowl, KC San Fran, Garoppolo misses the deep ball in that game. The running back for KC in that game, Derek Johnson, probably should have won MVP. At least statistically, had a much better game than Mahomes. Damian Williams, sure. Yeah, like I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. Damian Williams, Derek Johnson. Derek Johnson's like Kansas City running back like 20 years ago. The Priest Holmes game. I don't even know if that's even true. I swear I didn't put anything in any Sambuca or anything in the coffee this morning. Mahomes, KC winning the Super Bowl is so highly correlated to Mahomes winning MVP. You really have to think about, okay, what are the scenarios in which he can't? Like, even if a KC player scored a defensive touchdown in this game, I'm still convinced Mahomes would get the MVP if he contributed to like 2 touchdowns or even had like 250 passing yards and a touchdown. So you have to think about that. But Worthy is the guy that, to me, his versatility, he could end up being the guy that scores all the touchdowns for the Chiefs. 1 passing, 1 rushing, like utilized in all sorts of different ways. That's interesting to me. No team to score 30 plus 500. Are you sure on those odds? Double check those because that seems very wrong to me. Oh, neither, or like not the game not to get to 30 or neither team to score 30. Those are very different. Is Hurts to score touchdown short? I think Hurts to score touchdown has been short all year. I do respect the market. I'm not the best props bettor in the world. Hitman is a way better props bettor than me. I know way better props bettors than me. I do make money betting props, but I do think that for a long time this year, the market has struggled to get to these prices on Hurts. So, yes, I would not bet Saquon in these ranges. I know it's been the year for chalk. I really do. I've lost a lot of money betting nose on big name players this year. I think it's bad variance. I don't know. I'm going to explore that in the offseason. But the Hurts prices, I think, a little bit lower. Do you respect Prop Dude 7's props? It's Hitman at the top. George Riley Panagakis is next. Fezzik right after. Prop Dude 7 right there. Next in the list. Take that for what it's worth. Do appreciate the questions. There's probably so much more. Do you like Worthy over rushing? Okay, where's he settled in on the rushing yards? Because Worthy's going to get he's going to get something in this game. FanDuel 5.5 minus 122. Okay, that's a full yard lower than most of the market, I would say. I'll say I'm indifferent on that one. I'd be interested if there were being offered, Worthy was being offered an alt rushing anywhere. He may not be. If you could give that a quick look, Jason, that would be appreciated. I would rather play him for something like, I don't see him listed on the board here, but I'd rather play him for something like 20 plus than over 6.5. I think his distribution is a little bit different. Did you look at Goddard under rushing? Yeah, I noticed he was half yard under, roughly in the minus 250, 260 range. And obviously he was getting the carries, some tush-push stuff because of Hurts's knee. I don't believe Goddard will get a carry in this game in short yardage. I don't. But I didn't play that. I did it. Okay, lots of good stuff in here today. Jay Murphy says Noah Gray first TD. I know my buddy Sammy Paniotovich is cheering against Noah Gray today. I don't have a lot of exposure to Noah Gray overs or anything like that. I could see Noah Gray having a big game. And like big relative to his line. Because I can see a scenario where Casey goes a lot of two tight end to offset that nickel defense for the Eagles. And they really just try to play big boy football. Have big guys on the field, physical. I could see that being a possibility. Derek Davenport going way down the board with Carson Steele. Can't say I love it, but no exposure there. I'll wish you luck. Okay, Dean says Mahomes rush attempts over 5.5. This is definitely correlated to who you think will win the game too. Because remember, the kneels will count as rushing attempts if that ends up happening. I like an SGP dart on Mahomes over rushing attempts, but under rushing yards. Part of the rationale behind this would be Mahomes's propensity to kneel for like a shit ton. Now, you can't SGP this at all books. I think we have it up on screen here where you can't put these together at FanDuel as well, but you can at a few spots. That's kind of the thinking I'm going with. We've seen this happen many times, including this year in the playoffs already. Mahomes ain't taking these 1 yard kneels. Bart, we're on the same page, my man. Worthy race to 20 plus rushing is 28-1. I don't want the race to 20. I saw this on the Mahomes unders from ETR. I love ETR. Very well respected. For me, this is not necessarily like, I think that I'm not playing over Mahomes rushing attempts solo. I'm trying to find an inversely correlated outcome that isn't priced properly, that gets boosted up like that. This is the best price in market at FanDuel on Mahomes over 27.5 rushing, minus 110. The Eagles are very good at defending quarterback runs. I mean, the Mahomes is athletic, but he's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Jaden Daniels. Like, those guys are matchup nightmare for anyone, where it's going to be almost impossible to defend them. I can't say I'm super enthused about Mahomes rushing yards in this game. I can't say I'm super enthused about that. All right. Just looking through the rest of the FanDuel stuff. They do have best price in market on Jalen Hurts long rush. Again, I'm skeptical of all that because of the knee injury. And I really think about things probabilistically, right? That's my mindset. I don't think about things of like, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. It's all probabilistically. For me, I want to avoid outcomes where I'm rooting for a guy that is coming in with a pre-existing knee injury that's likely going to have offseason surgery that has to put up a lot of rushing yards. To me, that's not a great bet at where the current market stands. If we were getting a huge discount, sure, I would get that. Early Bird's talking about some builder lines. Builder is way above market on all the Eagles receivers. So, I mean, if you do have builder access, Devontae Smith's unders. I think I played some Dallas Goedert under there. I played AJ Brown receptions under there. But they're going to be high on Kelsey, Mahomes rush yards. Basically, like all the square plays, opposite would be worthwhile there. Touchdown markets I do want to look at. See really quickly here what the expectation is for. I noticed that FanDuel has a very off-market price on the Eagles fullback, Kahari Blasingame, at 70-1. I didn't play this yet. I'm just speaking out loud as I look at the screen right now. And I'm starting to wonder, I mean, I can't imagine he's even gotten a carry this year. But I kind of throw that stuff out the window when it comes to Super Bowl because you tend to see all sorts of stupid shit happen in the Super Bowl. Has Blasingame? No, he hasn't. Last year, he had one game where he had many carries. Interesting. I might have to explore that after a little bit. Touchdown market. I think the best bet at FanDuel, even though you're going in completely blind on what the situation would be Isaiah Pacheco plus 370. That guy cooked me last week against Buffalo. He was just not, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, not involved whatsoever. Thank you for talking me out of Blasingame, by the way, MP. I can't say that yet. Wait till it loses. But yeah, like Hurts' best price, minus 120 is FanDuel. Hunt's best price, 145 is FanDuel. Pacheco, 370 is really good, in my opinion, FanDuel. If you want Mahomes anytime, 4-1, FanDuel. Worthy, 155, FanDuel. Hollywood Brown, 290 is FanDuel. Juju, 600, FanDuel. Oh, here's the last player I want to talk about. Because it didn't come up at all. Actually, there's a few that haven't come up at all. I think we've been more Chiefs focused than Eagles focused. Jahan Dotson has been a really contentious topic of discussion. His receiving yards are 3.5 at FanDuel. There's 1.5s in the rest of the market. Jahan Dotson barely gets any targets. Barely gets any targets. But he's going to be on the field for so many plays. He's also not going to be opposite the two best corners on the Chiefs for so many plays. I have a hard time believing that Dotson over is not a plus EV bet. I have a hard time believing that. It's also probably going to be a pretty damn good sweat. If you're betting for entertainment as well, by the way, I would be betting this because I actually think it's good. But if you're betting for entertainment, you're basically sweating one catch the entire game. It's the ideal bet. It's the ideal bet. So that's one person. On the Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, I talked Dallas Goedert a little bit. This does set up for either of those guys. There's going to be situations in this game where McDuffie and Watson are going to be one-on-one on these guys. Because Spagnuolo is going to send extra pressure. We know he's going to do that at pivotal points in this game. And Hurts will throw it up one-on-one. He'll also eat sacks in those situations, but he'll take some shots every now and then. So, I mean, statistically speaking, there's a decent chance that one of those two guys will go off. I'm more inclined to believe it would be A.J. Brown. But I don't know. Okay. I think I've gotten to as many as possible, honestly, here. I think I've gotten, if there's anything else in specific, you let me know. Halftime show stuff. I did see Book It Trent put out a video. I hate when people do this. I really do. Sorry, I just saw a comment. I'll respond to that in a second. I believe Book It Trent's halftime show stuff to be information to be correct. I believe that to be correct. Total sacks. Didn't play anything related to sacks. Obviously, Mahomes has really good sack avoidance. He's going to be under duress a lot in this game. Hurts, not great sack avoidance. He does have great legs, but he will eat sacks during the blitz. No strong opinion there. How did you price the number of players with a rushing attempt? I didn't. Be completely upfront with you, Bobby. Were you able to get down on the Anthem? Yes, less and less every year. My expectation is that the Anthem will be somewhere between 1:59 and 2 minutes. I actually don't even know who's doing the Anthem, sadly, and I bet this stuff. Some guy playing a piano. Who is it? John Batiste. Okay, so here's the one issue. I don't know from any information. I'm assuming he's playing the piano and doing the piano. Now, normally when the Anthem information gets out there, the Anthem is being sung to a backing track, which, let's just say someone happened to be recording an Anthem time and it's being sung to a backing track in rehearsals. Well, you can imagine it's going to be the exact same time every single time when they sing it at the Super Bowl because they're playing the backing track. There's no way for the singer to deviate from that. When someone's playing the piano, it gives me a little bit more of a hesitancy because they're now singing to their own beat. Now, I would imagine, I've played shows before. I know a lot about music. I am a musician. I would imagine he's got a click track in his ear to keep him on the schedule. I do know rehearsal times were 1:59 and a half. But outside of that, we can never say with guarantee that that's going to be the time at the Super Bowl. But that's it. So take that for what you will. If you're in you're in pools with your friends and they got an over-under on the prop sheet, you can use that information. But the market this year was very close to that number and hasn't really deviated. So I'm fairly confident that it's going to be in and around that number. Love it. That Anthem time comes in as soon as the first note of the song is sung. It's first note to last note. And yes, I very much learned last year about the terms of those. I very much learned the terms of those. Alan, maybe in the off season, we'll do something with the guitar. I mean, I did that on a Forward Progress live watch along this year. It was one absolutely brutal game. had to fill with some requests in the second half. But that's it. All right. I think I've covered as much as I could. So that's going to be it. It's actually, I don't want to say emotional. Like, I'm not going to sit here and cry. But I do think next Sunday will come. And I'm going to be on a beach in Mexico. And I wouldn't have taken pizza buffet out of my calendar. And I'm going to get that notification. And I'm going to be like, yeah, you know what? It's kind of sad that I'm not doing a pizza buffet this morning. This is a wrap on the pizza buffet for the year. Super Bowl Sunday. It's time to sit back, enjoy the game. For me, it's time to go snowplow the driveway because it snowed a shit ton overnight. But I appreciate every single one of you who tuned in this year, every single person who dropped their thoughts in the chat. All of you made this show what it is, not just me, not just today, all season long. Now, just because the NFL season ends tonight doesn't mean we're going anywhere. The offseason is where many bettors try to find edges before the markets mature, before the markets fully take shape. We've got you covered right here on Forward Progress in the offseason. We're going to be breaking down free agency. We're diving deep into the NFL draft. We're looking ahead at futures markets for next season. There's no offseason in betting. If you want to stay ahead, stick with us on Forward Progress. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Forward Progress, like the video from today, turn on notifications going forward so you don't miss a thing. The one thing I do say, listen, not every single person on this network or this channel is a professional bettor, but oftentimes we do talk about stuff and the lines move. It does happen. So set those notifications going forward, because if we do off-season content, we're talking about stuff for next year, good angles, I can assure you that those numbers are probably going to move. So thank you again for all the support this season. Enjoy the game, bet responsibly, and we'll see you soon back here on Forward Progress. Peace out, everyone. Have a great Super Bowl Sunday.